First contact with the Deathworld. The stars burned cold outside the viewport of the Elythrian scout vessel Harrower. Commander Vaith clicked his mandibles, the sound sharp in the silence of the command deck. For decades, the Galactic Consortium had mapped and classified habitable worlds across the spiral arm. Most planets fell neatly into categories: garden, barren, toxic, or feral. But this one, designation, Sol 3, intoned the ship's analyst. Her tendrils shifted uneasily as data cascaded across the holodisplay. Gravitational strength, 9.8 standard. Atmospheric oxygen, dangerously high. Pathogens, innumerable. Apex predators in every biome. Unstable tectonics. Violent hydrological cycles. Storm systems reaching sizes comparable to our continents. This world is a death world, Vaith finished. His voice was low, almost reverent. The word carried weight among explorers. A death world was not simply hostile. It was deliberately cruel, sculpted by natural law into a gauntlet of extinction. Most death worlds bore only scattered, primitive life, organisms clawing a meager existence in their niches. To find a sapient species thriving here, that was beyond improbable. Yet the evidence was undeniable. The data showed not a scattered tribal population, but billions. The surface glittered with cities, orbit tracked with metallic satellites. Radio waves cluttered the spectrum. Sol 3's natives had not only endured the nightmare conditions of their world, they had flourished. The analyst's tendrils curled tighter. They called themselves humans. The bridge crew shifted, exchanging uneasy glances. "Show me," Vaith ordered. The holodisplay flickered, drawing from intercepted broadcasts. At once, the chamber filled with sound and vision. Images of humans scaling frozen peaks, diving into lightless seas, sprinting across deserts, marching into battle. They bayed teeth when angered, an ancient predator's warning. They laughed amid danger. They fought each other in endless, organized wars, inventing ever more efficient methods of destruction. "They thrive on violence," one officer murmured. "Not violence," corrected another, voice trembling. "Conflict. Struggle itself. They do not avoid it. They seek it." Vaith leaned closer to the holofeed, watching a recording of humans launching a rocket into orbit. The craft shuddered, flames erupting from its base, tearing upward into the sky with a roar like thunder. The ship was primitive by Consortium standards, but what chilled him was not its design. It was the humans cheering, thousands of them, exulting in the risk. The commander let out a slow breath. A species born on a death world would be dangerous. But these creatures, they embraced the death world, made it their teacher. The data continued to scroll. Nations divided the planet. Conflicts erupted regularly. Yet one name appeared disproportionately often in military broadcasts, cultural exports, even interhuman disputes. The analyst spoke the word as though it were a curse. "America." A pause gripped the bridge. "What is it?" Vaith asked. "Not the largest power," she explained, "but unique. Records show they value individual freedom above collective survival. Their history is littered with uprisings and revolutions. They are reckless in war, unpredictable in diplomacy. Their military expenditure exceeds entire planetary budgets. Their culture glorifies defiance, songs, myths, even cartoons." She pulled up an image of a red, white, and blue banner waving defiantly in battle. "They fight not only with weapons, but with identity." Another officer shivered. "A faction like this on a death world. It should have self-destructed long ago." "Yet it thrives," the analyst whispered. "It spreads its influence far beyond its borders. Even other humans fear them, and yet rely on them. Their unpredictability makes them the most statistically dangerous subgroup we have ever catalogued." The room fell silent. Even the hum of the engines seemed muted. Vaith straightened, mandibles clicking in finality, then marked the record accordingly. "Sol 3 is a death world. Designation confirmed. Humanity is a high-threat sapient species. And this America," his eyes narrowed on the banner waving in defiance, the symbol that had endured countless wars. "This America maybe the darkest nightmare the galaxy has yet to face. The crew bowed their heads, the weight of the declaration sinking into them. For millennia, the Consortium had believed itself the apex of order and civilization. Yet as the human signals blared across the void, voices roar with passion, laughter, and fury alike. An ancient instinct stirred in their alien hearts. For the first time in generations, the explorers felt not curiosity, but fear, testing humanity's response. The Harrower drifted in high orbit, its hull cloaked against primitive senses. Commander Vaith watched the planet rotate beneath them, blues and greens flashing with storms, ribbons of light marking sprawling cities. The Consortium Council had given its order, test the Deathworlders. Not with a full invasion. Not yet. A controlled incursion, enough to measure their response. Deploy the forward detachment, Vaith ordered. His mandibles clacked in unease. Minimal force. A single city. Let us see how they bow. The strike came without warning. In a quiet valley in the human territory they called Montana, a shimmering rift split the dawn. Through it strode Consortium shock troopers, armored in chitinous exosuits, energy rifles glowing in their hands. Their mandate was simple: establish dominance, issue demands, and await surrender. Humans scattered in confusion as the first structures burned. A communications tower fell. A highway melted beneath alien fire. To the invaders, it seemed routine. Most primitive species reacted the same way. Panic, pleading, submission. But these humans did not. Within minutes, signals surged across the ether. Not from governments, not yet, but from ordinary people. Frantic calls on handheld devices, images shared across something called the Internet. By the time Earth's militaries awoke to the crisis, the news was already everywhere. Videos of towering alien figures went viral in seconds. Fear spread, yes, but so did something else. Defiance. The first organized response came not from global councils, but from local Americans. Sheriffs, ex-soldiers, even ranchers gathered with hunting rifles. Their bullets pinged uselessly off Consortium armor, at first. Then came roadside bombs, fashioned from fertilizer. Then drones bought from hobby stores, rigged with explosives. The aliens, advancing with calculated menace, suddenly found themselves harassed by attacks they could not predict. "Commander," hissed the field officer through the comms. "These primitives are uncoordinated but relentless. They do not scatter, they circle us." The true hammer fell hours later. Before the United Nations could convene, before treaties could be debated, the Americans moved. From a base half a continent away, black aircraft cut through the sky. Stealth bombers. Alien sensors struggled to track them until smart munitions dropped, shattering the valley floor. Entire alien squads vanished in firestorms. From the forest came shadows, special forces. Camouflaged, silent, using terrain as weapon. Snipers eliminated squad leaders from distances Consortium rifles could scarcely match. Even as the aliens adjusted, the attacks shifted. Civilians armed with scoped rifles harassed convoys. Farmers blocked roads with tractors. Children guided reconnaissance drones by remote control. It was not a government. It was an ecosystem of defiance. On the Harrower's bridge, Vaith's mandibles clicked furiously as reports streamed in. "Losses are unacceptable," the analyst whispered. "How? They are not unified." They had no warning. Vaith stared at the footage, grainy images of armored troopers falling to crude traps, burning vehicles, human fighters painted with mud and leaves. "This is no army," he said at last. "This is instinct. They are predators, born from this death world. Even their civilians move as if the hunt is natural." Another officer leaned close. But one pattern emerges. "Commander, the most aggressive response comes from a single human faction. The Americans." The word hung heavy in the chamber. In the valley, as the sun sank blood-red, the survivors of the Consortium detachment regrouped. Their armor was scorched, their numbers thinned. Across the tree line, human laughter echoed, the sound of hunters mocking their prey. One trooper trembled. "They fight without fear." They enjoy it. His commander could not answer, for as night fell, the hills lit with new fires, fires set by unseen hands. And above, human aircraft circled like vultures. The invasion had been meant to measure. Instead, it had awakened. When the consortium fleet finally withdrew its broken detachment, Vaith knew the truth. The humans would never kneel. And if the council demanded escalation, it would not be a war of conquest. It would be survival, theirs or ours. And in the center of that storm, one name pulsed like a war drum in every intercepted broadcast, every encrypted transmission, every soldier's rallying cry. America, the American nightmare unleashed. The council's response was swift. When reports of the Montana debacle reached the consortium's core worlds, the chamber rang with outrage. How could primitives on a Deathworld repel trained shock troopers? The consensus, escalation, crushed them before the infection of defiance spread. On the Heroa, Commander Vaith felt the weight of that decision. Orbital fire was authorized. Entire legions of armored soldiers descended through atmosphere, war machines rumbling across the Deathworld soil. This time, there would be no measured probe. This time, Earth would be broken. The first bombardment struck hard. A coastal city was leveled in seconds, skyscrapers reduced to slag. To most species, such devastation would collapse morale. To humans, it did not. In America, the opposite occurred. Within hours of the attack, manufacturing plants switched production overnight. Cars gave way to armored carriers. Toy factories began printing rifle parts. Shipping lines ferried supplies inland. Civilians queued not in despair but in defiance, volunteering for militias. Online networks buzzed with coordination. Hackers jamming consortium signals. Teenagers modifying drones. Engineers posting blueprints for homemade armor. The invaders had expected submission. Instead, they had lit a fire. The first major clash came in the forests of Appalachia. Consortium war machines advanced up winding roads, sensors sweeping. The air was thick with humidity, the forest alive with insects, conditions hostile to delicate alien electronics. From the trees, American fighters emerged. Not soldiers alone, but loggers, miners, hunters. They knew every ridge, every hollow. Explosives planted beneath bridges tore apart convoys. Snipers picked targets with precision born from generations of hunting deer across misty valleys. Drones buzzed like hornets overhead. The aliens adapted, jamming signals, only to discover the drones were merely decoys, leading them into kill zones where rocket teams waited. Vaith's reports grew darker by the hour. Casualties mounted. Entire divisions stalled. They fight like the terrain itself, he muttered. Every hill, every river is a weapon in their hands. The escalation only fed American ingenuity. Captured alien rifles appeared in the hands of militias, stripped down and rebuilt with local materials. Power cells turned into mines. Armor plating welded onto trucks. What the consortium discarded as salvage became new weapons in American workshops. Worse still was the psychological warfare. Alien troops intercepted human broadcasts expecting propaganda of fear. Instead, they found mockery. Cartoons depicting aliens tripping over their own technology. Songs with pounding rhythms. Lyrics turning invasion into comedy. Viral videos splicing battle footage with laughter. "Commander," one officer said, voice shaking, "our intimidation has inverted. Every strike inspires them. Every loss becomes fuel." The turning point came at Yellowstone National Park. Consortium commanders sought symbolic victory, crush a landmark revered by humans, and morale might collapse. They marched legions into the geothermal basin, armored columns rolling past geysers hissing with steam. But America was waiting. Engineers and rangers had studied the terrain for weeks. Demolition charges buried in volcanic rock. Booby traps laid along narrow passes. When the alien forces reached the basin's heart, the earth itself erupted. Geysers burst, scalding troopers alive. Explosives cracked the ground, sending war machines tumbling into boiling mud pits. Snipers fired through steam clouds, invisible until it was too late. Overhead, Stealth bombers released payloads timed with the eruptions, magnifying the chaos. The basin became a cauldron, swallowing an entire alien army. The survivors fled in disarray, abandoning their machines. To the Consortium, it was a massacre. To Americans, it was a legend, the Yellowstone Trap. On the Harrower, silence gripped the bridge as casualty reports scrolled endlessly. Vaith could scarcely process it. These humans, he whispered. They do not fight for survival alone. They fight because they refuse not to. And the Americans, his mandibles clicked nervously. They make war not. Chaos is their ally. The analyst lowered her gaze. Commander, if escalation continues, the Consortium may face defeat. Already whispers spread among the troops. Earth is cursed. America is death incarnate. Vaith's eyes fixed on the world below, where fires burned like constellations against the dark. He knew then what the Council had unleashed. They had not invaded a primitive world. They had provoked predators. And America was the sharpest fang. Earth united, the nightmare confirmed. The Council chambers trembled with unrest. Reports from Yellowstone had rippled across the Consortium like a plague. Thousands of troops lost, war machines swallowed by the very earth. Armies built to subjugate entire species had been dismantled by humans armed with nothing more than defiance and ingenuity. The Council wanted answers. Commander Vaith had none. They do not break, he said, voice hollow as he addressed the hollow assembly. You burn their cities, and they do not scatter. You kill their kin, and more rush forward. And at the center of it, always, they chant the same word, America. A murmur ran through the chamber, half disbelief, half faith. On Earth, the war had shifted. What began as isolated resistance had grown into a wildfire. Nations that had once distrusted each other now shared intelligence, arms, and engineers. Yet the spearhead remained America. It was not simply their weapons. It was their culture. Where others might bow to despair, Americans turned invasion into a rallying cry. Alien threats became slogans on T-shirts. Images of destroyed ships became murals across city walls. Late-night comedians mocked the Consortium on global broadcasts. What was meant to instill terror only fed the furnace. The Consortium struck harder. Orbital bombardments rained fire across deserts and oceans. Cities were reduced to craters. Yet still, resistance only spread. In the Midwest, farmers welded alien plating onto tractors and drove them into battle lines. In the South, militias harassed patrols with guerrilla tactics perfected in swamps and bayous. On the coasts, shipyards turned fishing vessels into gun platforms, swarming the invaders like schools of piranha. And overhead, captured alien drones buzzed back against their creators, reprogrammed by American hackers. It was not a unified government command. It was an entire population improvising war. The breaking point came when American engineers unveiled something new, a hybrid rail cannon, built from scavenged Consortium power cells and human steel. On a stormy night over the Atlantic, that cannon fired. Its projectile tore through the sky, slammed into a Consortium battleship, and ripped the vessel apart in a single, thunderous strike. For the first time in Consortium history, a Deathworld species had destroyed an orbital craft. The footage spread faster than fire, replayed on every human screen, intercepted by every alien comms array. The message was unmistakable. Humans could reach them now. On the Harrower, Vaith stood alone in the observation deck, watching Earth glow with defiant fires. This was meant to be conquest, he murmured, mandibles heavy with shame. But every strike makes them stronger. Every loss makes them crueler. They do not fear us. They study us, adapt, consume. His analyst spoke softly, tendrils trembling. Commander, what are they becoming? Vaith turned slowly, his eyes reflecting the blue marble below. Not prey, not subjects, predators. In America, he hesitated, the word tasting like iron. America is the darkest nightmare the galaxy has ever sown for itself. The Council convened in emergency. Some demanded extermination, sterilize the world, glass its surface, erase the humans. But others hesitated. Reports spoke of humans already probing captured technology, already deciphering consortium languages, already mimicking starship engines. Destroying Earth might not end them. It might only delay the inevitable. One counselor whispered the fear aloud. If they survive this, they will not stay on that planet. They will come for us. The chamber fell silent. The vote was taken. Withdrawal. Immediate. And so the fleets departed, limping, broken, humiliated. From orbit, they left behind a world scarred but unbowed. On the ground, Americans cheered, waving their banners skyward. Across the globe, nations echoed them, united by survival but inspired by the mad, relentless defiance of one faction that refused to kneel. The humans had faced their first interstellar war, and they had won, not through unity, not through superior technology, but through the raw refusal to accept defeat. On the final night of withdrawal, Vaith dictated his last report. Sol 3 is confirmed, a death world beyond reckoning. Its native species is adaptable, reckless, and unrelenting. Every strike we deal strengthens their resolve. Among them, one faction is singularly dangerous, embodying chaos as a weapon and freedom as creed. The name they give it is America. Mark this well, Earth is a death world. But America is our darkest nightmare. He sealed the message, knowing it would ripple through the consortium for generations. And deep below, on the spinning blue world, the humans looked to the stars, not with fear, but with hunger.